Hello everybody, welcome to Core Balance Yoga for Change. Today's class we're going to begin in a comfortable seated position, and as we breathe in on that first big inhale, raise those hands up overhead, and on that exhale, bring the hands down to heart center. Now we're just going to settle in here, use this quiet moment as an opportunity to pour all of our focus in today's class, maybe set an intention. What kind of changes are you trying to cope with and adapt to? Really trying to focus on that breath, breathing in for a few counts, and for the same amount of counts, breathing out, and continuing to do that throughout the class, focusing on that breath. Breathing all the way in as our hands come up and overhead, and then the hands come down to rest on the knees. From here, we're going to do a little bit of a seated cat and cow. Hands on the knees, we're going to breathe in, raising that chin and that chest, and on that exhale, rounding that spine, bring that chin down in toward our chest. Continuing at your own pace, breathing in, chin lifts, chest lifts, and exhaling, back rounds over. A couple more times at your own pace. Good. Back to a neutral position. We're going to bring the hands back behind us, reclining back into a modified seated camel position. Just letting the top of the head come down toward the tops of the shoulders, feeling that opening across the front of the chest, across the throat. And continuing to breathe. Big inhale as we come back up to a neutral position, slowly and carefully. And when you're ready, we're just going to continue with a couple of neck rolls here. Sending some extra attention to those tight spots in our neck. Maybe you have a couple snaps or crackles or pops, or if there's any tightness, just sending a little extra care there. Maybe slowing the rotation of our head, really working through that tightness. Go ahead and switch directions if you haven't already. Rolling that head carefully in the opposite direction. A few more times here, continuing to breathe. And head back to neutral. From here, go ahead and take a look down at your right shoulder, and then send that gaze upward toward the sky, continuing to do so in this diagonal motion, syncing up with your breath, exhaling as we look down at our shoulder, and on that inhale, sending that gaze up toward the sky. Switching sides when you're ready, looking over at the left shoulder, and on that inhale, sending that gaze up to the opposite corner of the sky. And head back to neutral. Go ahead and position yourself lengthwise on your mat, sending those legs out in front of you, sitting up nice and tall, and bringing that right knee in toward your chest, wrapping your arm around it. Twist open to that extended leg. Just a gentle twist in the spine here, a seated twist. Pulling those shoulders down, away from the ears, sitting up nice and tall, continuing to breathe. Nice deep breath in, and on that exhale, we're going to release, sending that right leg out, and switching it out for the left leg, bringing that left knee in toward our chest, grabbing hold, and opening ourselves toward that extended leg, that right leg. Again, drop those shoulders, sit up nice and tall. Breathing in completely and exhaling completely. Beginning to release, coming back to a neutral position. And however you want to get there, we're going to rotate onto all fours here. Stacking those knees below the hips, wrists, elbows, and shoulders stacked on top of one another in a straight line. And as soon as you feel that you've got a sturdy base, we're going to lift that left leg, sending it out away from the body, dialing those toes down toward the ground. And as soon as you're feeling balanced, send that opposite arm, that right arm, out in front of you. Grounding down through the floor. And if you want an added bonus, go ahead and bring that knee in toward the chest, grabbing hold and pulling that shin in toward the body. And then release to then gently drop those limbs down back to the ground. Resetting here as we switch that right leg back. Left arm extends when you're ready. And as soon as you've got that balance, bring that knee in toward the chest, reaching through, pulling that knee in toward your body. Release. And gently dropping those limbs back down to the ground. One more time, this time making it simultaneous. Left leg, right arm, bringing it in toward the body, sending them back out, and on that exhale, lowering. Last time, right leg, left arm lift, pulling in toward our core, extending back out, dial those toes down, and dropping the limbs back down. Good. One more time for good measure. Left leg, right arm extends, crunch, extend, and lower. And when you're ready, right leg, left arm extend, crunch, extend, and lower. Good job. From here, planting that right hand in the middle of the mat, bringing the left arm up into the sky, and then sending it all the way through, reaching underneath the body, settling that shoulder into the mat, relaxing the head, lifting back up, left arm comes up toward the sky, and that hand cycles down to the mat. Left hand toward the center of our mat, opening up across the right of our body here, and sending that right arm through the body, threading that needle as we settle our shoulder down to the mat. Remember that breath. Bring that arm back through, opening across the front of the chest, and cycling that hand down to the mat. Similar to what we did before, let's go ahead and lift that left leg, extending it out behind us. And once you've got that balance, we're going to bring that leg out to the side in a gate pose. Feeling that opening of the inside of the hip, right where the hip and the glutes connect. And then lifting and extending that leg back, lowering it down to the starting position, neutral tabletop. Opposite leg, that right leg comes back behind us when you're ready. Dialing those toes down. And when you're feeling balanced, sending that leg out to the side of the body, Feeling the opening of the hips. Lifting and returning back to that neutral tabletop position. One more time, lifting that left leg, extending it out toward the side of our body. Carefully lifting that leg, bringing it back behind us, and lowering back to that tabletop position. Last time on the right, lifting that right leg, dialing those toes down, extending out. Finding that breath, and on that inhale, we're going to lift that leg, bringing it back behind us into that neutral position. Good. Go ahead and bring it back, roll out the wrists, relax those shoulders, just briefly, and then coming back into that tabletop position. Lower that stomach down toward the mat in a cow pose. And on that exhale, sending it back into a downward dog. Taking a moment here, pumping out the heels. We're going to do this a couple more times. We're going to ease our way into it. Go ahead and gently drop those knees back to that tabletop. Breathing in as we lower that stomach down toward the mat. And on that exhale, send it back into a downward dog. Pushing away from those hands, lifting that tailbone down into a cow pose. Breathing in. And exhale, sending it back into that downward dog. Lowering down, stomach drops as we breathe in. And as we breathe out, sending it back into that downward dog. Baby steps walking toward the front of our mat here. Stay in that forward fold. And from here, we're just going to hang loose. Maybe grab hold of either elbow, let the head just dangle and relax. Warming up those hamstrings, loosening up the joints. And when you're ready, we're going to slowly roll up one vertebra at a time, rolling those shoulders back at the top. Planting those feet here, palms facing forward, find that breath. And when you're ready, breathe in, hands come up. And as we exhale, settling into that chair pose, pressing the hands together at heart center, raising that chest, and send all that weight back into our heels and our glutes. Inhale in, and on that exhale, hands coming down to the sides. Flowing right back into it on that inhale. And exhale, lower into chair pose. Continuing to breathe. But on your next big inhale, breathing all the way up. And exhale, hands come down. Once more, breathing in and up. Exhale, lower. Big breath in and up, and exhale, lower. Shake it out. From here, big breath in, hands coming up, and as we exhale over, we're coming to a flat back position, like a half forward fold, sending those hands back behind us into an airplane pose. Now keep that core strong as we continue to breathe. And on your next big exhale, lower those hands down to the mat. Bring that left leg back into a lunge, planting and pivoting that back foot. And when you're ready, we're going to extend up into a warrior one. Checking on that front knee and toes, make sure you can still see those toes. And when you're ready, we're going to hinge open to a warrior two. Bring that right arm forward to rest on the top of the thigh. Left arm comes up and overhead, extended side angle. And the left hand cycles down to the mat, coming into that low lunge and stepping the leg back into plank. From plank, slowly sending it back into a downward dog, maybe pumping out those heels once more, but really pressing away from the hands, lifting that tailbone as much as possible. And baby steps to the top of our mat. One vertebra at a time, rolling all the way up. Head is the last thing to come up. And cycling right back into it, breathing all the way up and over into that airplane pose. Strong core, staying lifted. And on the next big exhale, hands come down to the mat. This time, right leg comes back into that lunge. And when you're ready, opening up into warrior one. Continuing to breathe as we open up into warrior two. Nice deep breath in. And on that big exhale, sending it forward, left arm to the top of the thigh, right hand extends over. Upper hand is going to cycle down to the mat, stepping that front leg back and transitioning right into a downward dog. Baby steps to the top of the mat here. And find that breath. Rolling all the way up one vertebra at a time, nice and slow, to the top of our mat. Breathing in and up. This time settling back into a chair pose, hands at heart center. Big inhale as we rise out of chair pose, and exhale into mountain. Inhale up. Exhale, lower to chair. Continuing to breathe. Big inhale as we rise up out of chair, and exhale, hands down. Last time, breathing all the way in and up. Settling back into chair pose, a little bit deeper this time if you can. Continuing to breathe. And inhaling as we rise up out of chair. Shake it out. To change things up a bit, we're going to add in a new flow sequence. So go ahead and come to the top of our mat here. When you're ready, breathing all the way in and up. And on that exhale, forward fold all the way down, hands coming down to the mat. Step it back into a plank. And from that plank, sending it through to a downward dog. Focusing that weight into the left side. Preparing ourselves so that we can lift that right leg when you're ready up into a three-legged dog. And bringing that knee all the way through toward our nose so that the foot lands between our hands. When you're ready, take that right hand and place it on the inside of that right foot. Coming into lizard lunge or lizard pose. Keeping a strong core and a strong base here. Continuing to breathe. And when you're ready, walk those hands out toward the left of our body, keeping the feet where they're at, hinging at the hips, feeling that stretch through our obliques, and continue to breathe. After a moment, walk those hands back into that lizard pose and gently drop that back knee so we can send it back all the way into a runner's lunge. That front foot flexes as we bring our forehead toward our shin and bringing that front foot back to a flat position, raising the hands up as we breathe in to a half crescent. Exhale, hands flow down to the mat, lifting that back knee and stepping the right leg back so that we rest in a plank. And from that plank, slowly lowering down toward the mat, easing our way into upward dog or cobra. When you're comfortable and ready, back into that downward dog, prepping ourselves to continue in that same sequence on the other side. Sending that weight into the right leg, lifting the left leg up toward the sky and bringing that knee in toward your nose, resting the foot between the hands. Left hand is going to walk to the inside of the left foot into that lizard pose. And when you're ready, this time walking out toward the right. Feeling that stretch through our obliques, keeping a strong core, strong shoulders. And once you feel that you've had enough, slowly walking the hands back to that lizard pose. Gently dropping the back knee, sending your backside back toward that foot, and easing into a runner's lunge. Remember to flex that left foot, leaning forward to plant the foot, and then raising up on a big inhale to that half crescent pose. Exhale, sending it forward, lifting the back leg, and bringing that front leg back into the plank. Slowly lower it down and transition into cobra. From cobra, we're going to take a bit of a rest, sending the backside toward the feet and resting in a child's pose. If you'd like, maybe walking the hands back toward the feet, resting the forehead into the ground, letting all that tension and pressure out of the hands and the wrists and the shoulders. Deep breath in and exhale. Easing our way out of child's pose and coming back into that tabletop position. Find your way to a downward dog and take those baby steps toward the front of your mat. One vertebra at a time, rolling back up to a standing mountain. Drop those shoulders, shake out the wrists. And breathing all the way in and up. Hinging forward at the hips to that half fold airplane pose. We're going to tie it all together here. Dropping the hands down toward the mat. Left leg steps back into a lunge, pivoting the back foot. When you're ready, lifting up into a warrior one. Hinging open to a warrior two, nice and strong, solid base. And send that forward hand down toward the mat or the top of the thigh, extended side angle. Upper hand cycles down toward the mat into a low lunge, stepping that right leg back and easing our way into a downward dog. Transferring that weight into the left leg, lifting that right leg up toward the sky, bringing that foot in between the hands. Right hand steps into the inside of the right foot, lizard pose. And when you find your balance, gently walking the hands out to the left side of our body. Staying strong, continuing to breathe. Gently walk the hands back in toward the foot. Drop that back knee and send it back into a runner's lunge. Transition that weight forward, planting that front foot, raising all the way up. Inhale, half crescent. And exhale, hands come toward the mat. Raising that back knee, stepping back into a plank, and from that plank into a downward dog, pumping out the heels. Baby steps toward the top of our mat, forward fold. And when you're ready, slowly, one vertebra at a time, raising to a standing position. Find that breath. Breathing all the way in and up. Sending it forward to airplane. Inhale slightly to lift. As we exhale, lowering down, hands to the mat. This time bringing that right leg back into that lunge, pivoting that right foot, that back foot. And when you find that solid base, lifting up into a warrior one. Deep breath in. And on that exhale, opening up into warrior two. Bringing it forward, left hand down to the mat, right hand up toward the sky. And on that next big exhale, upper hand cycles down toward the mat. Step back into plank, and from plank to downward dog. Transferring that weight into the right leg, lifting that left up toward the sky, and bringing it through knee to nose. Left hand steps to the inside of the left foot into that lizard pose. And when you find your balance, walking the hands out to the right side of our body. Find that breath, strong core, and walk those hands back in toward the left foot. Carefully drop that back knee and send it all the way back into a runner's lunge, flexing that foot. Transferring the weight forward, planting that foot, raising all the way up with a big inhale, half crescent. And on that exhale, bringing the hands down toward the mat. Back knee lifts, and that front leg steps back into a plank. Slowly lowering that body down toward the mat, and lifting up into a downward dog, and transferring that weight back into a downward dog. Take some baby steps toward the front of the mat, maybe shake it out, and when you're ready, one vertebra at a time, rolling up at your own pace to come to a standing. Deep breath in as we lift up, and on that exhale, bring those hands down into heart center, taking a moment for yourself. As we're near the end of class, we're going to go ahead and lay down on our mats, reclining, settling into the floor, relaxing that spine. And once you're in a good position, bring those knees in toward the chest, giving yourself a big hug. Maybe rocking side to side, massaging that spine. And just find that breath. Complete inhales and complete exhales. Crossing those legs while we're still reclined, sending them out to rest on the floor. When you're ready, breathing in as our hands come to rest behind our head. Extend it out past the crown of our head in fish pose. As we're lying here relaxing, try to let go of any tension that you're keeping in your jaw or your fists. Just melting into the ground. Breathing in as the hands come up and extend out to our sides in a T shape. Knees coming up toward the ceiling. And from here, letting both of the knees fall to one side. While we're in the supine twist, maybe try turning the head to face the opposite direction from where your knees are pointed. Just to get a full twist across the length of our spine. Coming back into a neutral. And let the knees fall over to the other side. Turning that head to face away from the direction our knees are pointing in a supine twist. Try counting those breaths as you're breathing in. And on that exhale, try to hold that exhale for the same amount of counts as you took in. So breathing in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4. Continuing to do that for a few breaths. And return those knees back up toward the sky, hands coming to rest by our sides, and extend those feet out away from the body. Again, releasing that tension, unclenching the jaw, softening the grip in our hands, relaxing the tongue in our mouth even. Just letting that tension and that stress melt away as much as possible. While we're doing so, continuing to count those breaths. Inhale, in, 2, 3, 4, and exhale out, 2, 3, 4. If you'd like, go ahead and clasp those fingers together, bringing the thumbs to rest right in the center of your forehead, just above the brow, applying slight pressure to the forehead. Continuing to breathe. Stay here for as long as you'd like. Continue to breathe and relax. But I will be seeing you next time. Namaste.